And today I have Whitney Burk, who is our fire public educator with the Chatham-Kent Fire Services. Whitney, thanks for joining us today.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
So let's talk really. I see you got your kids there. How are you and your family doing in this very interesting time?
Interesting times indeed, for sure. We are doing great. As you can see, I am at home. I'm one of the few personnel with the fire service who have the ability to work from home for now. If the situation around the pandemic changes, there is a chance that things would change and I could be upgraded to being more involved on the front lines. But right now, no, I am working from home. I've got my daughter Rowan here and my son Corson, and we're doing our best to make things work as much as they can. Most of our officers don't have the luxury of working from home, so we have implemented a number of things to make sure that our staff are safe. We've been doing this actually since the middle of March. So when I do go into the fire station, before I can enter, I have to be assessed for symptoms. So they're taking temperatures, checking for overall health, asking about travel. We did have some members of our fire service who were quarantined because they were outside of the country as well. So, along with everyone else, I think we're doing everything that we can to ensure the safety of our firefighters and the community.
Which is of utmost important. I know they're working their tails off out there. Your fire chief had made a report there on Monday about everything that's going on. So we appreciate everything you guys are doing. How are emergency services like our fire team taking every precaution to make sure CK residents are safe out there?
Yes. So like I mentioned again about the screening of our firefighters, we're practicing social distancing whenever possible. Obviously, for a fire crew, it can be tricky at times, but normally, for example, we have 2 fire stations in Chatham that normally train together, would attend a lot of different events throughout the day together, and they're just not doing that. We're staying in our stations as much as possible. And trying to limit our outside exposure. So I'm trying to think of what else we are doing in terms of non-essential calls. We are again trying to ask the public to limit those non-essential calls to 911 as much as possible.
Okay, that's great. I think a lot of residents are kind of confused. Obviously with social and physical distancing, you can't go outside, which will segue to my next question. Aside from social and physical distancing, what can we do to help your staff with unnecessary emergency phone calls?
So obviously, most importantly is prevention. I'm doing my best from home to educate the public through social media and newspapers and yourself. This type of interaction is great to just remind the public about prevention. We're at home more, we're cooking more. When we're in the kitchen, we want to make sure that we're paying attention to what we're doing. I know a lot of people are multitasking right now, including myself, working full time, being a mom at home, preparing meals and, everything else, along with the added stress of just what's going on. So prevention is key for that. But also making sure that you have working alarms in your home, checking the dates to make sure that they're not expired, and most importantly, having a home escape plan. Again, with people in the home more than usual, making sure that everybody knows what to do when the alarms go off is very, very important. So we are trying to limit those nuisance calls, and I'm sure that this is probably where you were going with that question in terms of social and physical distancing. On April 1st, the fire chief did implement a suspension of recreational campfires for the next 28 days. I believe there's about 19 days left on that ban, which will then be reassessed on the 28th of April to see if it's going to continue or not at that time.
Yep, and that's a great thing. I've heard a couple of people made reports that on the snitch line, we've seen bonfires. Obviously, this would be a nuisance call because you guys have other resources that you need to focus on. It may sound like a very generic question. That in that media release, there is a difference between a bonfire and an agricultural burn. Obviously, our farmers need to do their work. For somebody that might say, oh, the farmers are working, they could use this as a loophole as possibly a bonfire. What is an agricultural burn for someone that may or may not know what that is?
Yes, so we have two different types of permits. We have an open burn permit, which is the permit that is issued to our agricultural farmers. And these permits are free, and they are still permitted to burn during these times, as long as it is, again, an actual agricultural burn, and not, like you said, kind of disguised as a campfire. Our recreational burn permits are the permits that are issued to those outside of the agricultural industry. So those are your campfires for your residential homes, and those are the fires that are suspended for the next remaining 19 days.
Okay. Nope, that's a perfect answer to it. I'm sure people will understand that obviously the farmers do need to do what they need to do, but again, we're trying to relay and not do as much outdoor activity as much as it's getting nicer outside. We want to make sure everyone's doing their part and making sure that we're all safe. No, this is great information, Whitney. Thank you for what you and your department are doing. Is there anything you would like to add for our residents of CK out there right now?
Absolutely. One of the things that we've been seeing a lot of conversation about in terms of the suspension of recreational campfires is that a lot of people believe that the reason that they were put in place is to maintain social distancing between family members or between family and friends. And obviously, not having a campfire does eliminate the temptation of getting groups together. But ultimately, the decision was made to protect the community and our firefighters, from a possible response. So if we have to respond to a 911 call that has to do with a recreational campfire, those resources are then allocated to that call. And so by not allowing people to have campfires in their backyard during this time, we eliminate the chance of that call happening, whether it be a complaint or a campfire that gets out of hand and then does turn into an emergency, in which case you can look at having 10 plus firefighters that all have to join together to put out the fire. So that's really what we're trying to eliminate. We do understand that there is an element of inconvenience that comes along with this, but it seems to be the trend of what's going on right now. And the community, you guys really are the front line of this COVID pandemic. And by eliminating having campfires, you're eliminating these unnecessary calls to our dispatchers, unnecessary visits from firefighters and police, and ultimately you are saving lives by doing that. So thank you for your continued support, and hopefully we'll be on the other side of this sooner rather than later. That's
a great way to end it there, Whitney. So thank you for what you and your team are doing. I'm sure a lot of the public will be interested to see what the reassessment is after the fire ban permit is, but as the provincial senior governments are saying, this could prolong a bit longer, I'm sure we're all in the same boat, but we need to stand together and make sure that everyone does their part in eliminating the curve, I guess you can say. So hope you and your family stay safe out there, and thanks again for all you guys do.
Thanks, Eric. It was a pleasure, and keep doing what you're doing. It's great work, so thanks a lot.